Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another session on One Touch Pharmacology. Hope all of you are doing fine. In this video, we will be discussing biotransformation or metabolism. The link to the previous video on absorption and distribution is given in the description box. If you take a drug, it does not remain in your system forever. It has to be metabolized and excreted. So, after drug absorption and distribution, the next process is metabolism or biotransformation. So, let's look into the definition of biotransformation. So, what do you mean by biotransformation? Biotransformation is chemical alteration of the drug in the body to aid its excretion and to prevent drug accumulation and toxicity. The end result of biotransformation is usually conversion of a lipid soluble drug into a non lipid soluble or a polar drug. By converting a lipid soluble drug into a polar drug, what you do is you prevent reabsorption of the drug from the renal tubules. So, what are the sites where biotransformation takes place in your body? The most important site of biotransformation is liver. The other sites are intestine, lungs, skin, and the renal proximal tubules. So, what are the important outcomes of biotransformation? The most important one is conversion of an active drug into an inactive drug. Secondly, formation of an active drug from an inactive drug. And thirdly, formation of another active drug from already active drug. Conversion into an inactive metabolite. Example is conversion of phenobarbital into hydroxyphenobarbital. Secondly, the example of formation of an active drug from an inactive drug. It's otherwise called as prodrug. Example is conversion of levodopa, which is an inactive drug, into dopamine. So levodopa is inactive and dopamine is the active drug. Finally, formation of another active metabolite from an already active drug. Example is formation of morphine 6 glucuronide from morphine. So, what are the advantages of giving a drug as a prodrug? Prodrug means the drug is given as an inactive drug, and this inactive drug gets converted into an active metabolite in the body. One of the most important advantage is stability and better bioavailability. Giving the drug as a prodrug might mask the bitter taste of the active metabolite and sometimes also helps in decreasing the toxicity. Prodrugs also help in site specific action. One of the important example is sulfasalazine, which is given in the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis and ulcerative colitis. Now we'll move on to another important topic, that is first pass metabolism, otherwise called as pre-systemic elimination. This is an often repeated question in UG as well as your PG question paper. So, an orally administered drug is exposed to drug metabolizing enzymes in the intestine as well as the liver before it reaches the systemic circulation. This means a part of the orally administered drug is metabolized even before it reaches the systemic circulation. So, that is why it is called as pre systemic elimination. So, the metabolism of the drug before it reaches the systemic circulation. Examples of some orally administered drug with high first pass metabolism include propranolol and salbutamol. So both these drugs are given in a very high dose when you compare it with their parenteral doses. Another example of drugs with high first pass metabolism is lignocaine and testosterone. Both these drugs have very high first pass metabolism and they cannot be given orally. That's why these drugs are given parenterally. There are two types of reactions in biotransformation. One is phase 1 reaction and phase 2 reaction. So, firstly, about the phase 1 reaction. The phase 1 reaction is otherwise called as functionalization reaction or non synthetic reaction. Usually, after a phase 1 reaction, it exposes a functional group or alters a functional group. The drug becomes less lipid soluble, and after phase 1 reaction, the drug can be either active or inactive. Phase 2 reactions are called as synthetic reaction. A large bulky group is usually added to the metabolite. Here, the drug becomes highly polar, and usually after phase 2 reaction, the drug becomes inactive. Phase 2 reactions need expenditure of energy, whereas phase 1 reactions are non energy dependent. The drug metabolism can be carried out by microsomal enzymes, non microsomal enzymes, and non enzymatic reactions, or otherwise called as Hoffman's elimination. The microsomal enzymes are located in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum of the liver. They are cytochrome P450 and glucuronyl transferases. These enzymes are basically non-specific and inducible. They mainly metabolize lipid-soluble drugs. Microsomal enzymes are mainly involved in carrying out phase 1 reactions. Inside phase 2 reaction, they are involved with glucuronide conjugation only. Nextly, the cytochrome P450 enzymes. It is a heme containing enzyme superfamily, and structurally there is a complex between the ferrous ion and the carbon monoxide which absorbs light maximally at 450 nanometer wavelength. That's why it is called as cytochrome P450 enzymes. They are classified into families 1, 2, 3, etc., subfamilies A, B, C, D, and at the end there is a number which denotes the gene on which it is located. Let's look into this example, CYP3A4. Here, the number 3 denotes the family, A denotes the subfamily, and 4 denotes the gene on which it is located. Some examples of cytochrome enzymes include CYP3A4, CYP2D6, CYP2C19, and CYP2E1. Among this, the most common one is CYP3A4. Now moving on to the non-microsomal enzymes. These enzymes are basically located in the cytoplasm and mitochondria of liver and plasma, unlike the microsomal enzymes which were located in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. These enzymes include monoamine oxidases, esterases, amidases, and conjugases. These enzymes are non-inducible and they mainly catalyze phase 2 reactions except for glucuronyl conjugation. They also catalyze some oxidation, reduction, and hydrolysis reactions. Now we have seen both microsomal as well as non-microsomal enzymes. Some drugs are metabolized non-enzymatically. This is otherwise called as Hoffman's elimination. Here, the drugs are metabolized in the plasma by spontaneous molecular rearrangement without involvement of any enzymes. One of the examples is etracurium. Now we'll look into the phase 1 reactions. The phase 1 reactions include oxidation, reduction, hydrolysis, cyclization, and decyclization. The oxidation reactions can be carried out by both microsomal as well as non-microsomal enzymes. Basically here there is addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen. Some of the drugs that undergo oxidation reactions include barbiturates, cimetidine, propranolol, and steroids. Moving on to reduction. Reduction is the converse of oxidation. Here, the cytochrome enzymes work in the opposite direction. The drugs that undergo reduction include chloramphenicol, warfarin, and halothane. Nextly, hydrolysis. Hydrolysis is cleavage of a drug by adding a molecule of water. Drugs that undergo hydrolysis include procaine, lignocaine, cholinesterase, and aspirin. Finally, cyclization and decyclization reaction. These reactions are minor reactions. In cyclization reaction, a ring structure is formed from a straight compound. Example, cycloguanyl from proguanyl. Decyclization reaction. Decyclization is opening up of a ring structure. Example, phenytoin, barbiturates, etc. Now we have finished the phase 1 reaction, which included oxidation, reduction, hydrolysis, cyclization, and decyclization. Now we'll move on to phase 2 reactions. Phase 2 reactions include methylation, acetylation, glucuronide conjugation, glycine conjugation, glutathione conjugation, sulfate conjugation, and nucleotide synthesis. Let's firstly look into glucuronide conjugation. This reaction is carried out by UDP glucuronyl transferases. Glucuronide conjugation is seen with drugs that have carboxyl or hydroxyl groups. Some of the drugs that undergo glucuronide conjugation undergo enterohepatic circulation, prolonging its duration of action. Examples of drugs that undergo glucuronide conjugation include diazepam, metronidazole, chloramphenicol, thyroxine, morphine, etc. Drugs that undergo enterohepatic circulation are morphine, thyroxine, and steroids. Nextly, acetylation. This reaction is carried out by acetyl transferases. The enzyme shows genetic polymorphism, dividing the population into two groups, that is, fast acetylators and slow acetylators. I remember the drugs that undergo acetylation by a mnemonic, that is, a ship in the sea. The S here stands for sulfonamides, H for hydrolazine, I for INH, P for PAS, and C for clonazepam. Methylation. Methylation is carried out by methyl transferases. Drugs that undergo methylation include adrenaline, histamine, and methyl dopa. Sulfate conjugation. Sulfate conjugation is carried out by sulfotransferases. Drugs with phenolic group and steroids are the ones which undergo sulfation reaction. Examples include chloramphenicol, methyl dopa, and steroids. Glutathione conjugation. This is carried out by glutathione S transferase. This is a minor pathway, and this reaction tends to detoxify quinone and epoxide intermediates which are formed during drug metabolism. Example is paracetamol. Glycine conjugation. Drugs with carboxyl group undergo this type of reactions. Examples include salicylates and nicotinic acid. Nucleotide synthesis. Purine and pyrimidine antimetabolites used in cancer chemotherapy undergo this type of reaction. So we have completed both phase 1 as well as phase 2 reaction. Now we look into the concept of enzyme induction and enzyme inhibition. Let's firstly look into enzyme induction. Enzyme induction includes increased synthesis of microsomal enzymes. Various drugs or chemicals can act as enzyme inducers. Inducer may or may not be the substrate of the enzyme. Enzyme induction is a reversible and slow process. It takes around 4 to 14 days. Now, some examples of enzyme inducers. I remember it with the mnemonic GPRS cell phone. G for griseofulvin, P for phenytoin, R for rifampicin, S for smoking, C for carbamazepine, and P of the phone for phenobarbital. I'll give you one example of enzyme induction. Say, for example, a person is taking both rifampicin as well as oral contraceptive pill. So, rifampicin, being an enzyme inducer, would increase the metabolism of oral contraceptive pill, resulting in contraceptive failure. Thus, enzyme induction usually results in therapeutic failure. Moving on to enzyme inhibition. Enzyme inhibition is a rapid and reversible process. In contrast to enzyme induction, enzyme inhibition is more rapid. When enzyme induction resulted in therapeutic failure, enzyme inhibition causes toxicity or exaggerated responses. Enzyme inhibition can be seen with both microsomal as well as non microsomal enzymes. Let's see this with an example. Let's see this with an example of theophylline and ciprofloxacin. Ciprofloxacin here is an enzyme inhibitor. Ciprofloxacin thus would inhibit the metabolism of theophylline, resulting in theophylline toxicity. The patient can present with seizures here. So, due to enzyme inhibition, basically there is an exaggerated therapeutic response or toxicity. Now, let's look into few examples of enzyme inhibitors. I remember it with a mnemonic vitamin K can cause enzyme inhibition. V for valproate, K for ketoconazole, C for cimetidine, another C for ciprofloxacin, E for erythromycin, and INH. To summarize, by drug metabolism, a non-polar molecule is converted to a polar molecule to aid its excretion. Both microsomal as well as non-microsomal enzymes are involved in drug metabolism. You have both phase 1 as well as phase 2 reactions in drug metabolism. Phase 1 reactions include oxidation reduction and hydrolysis, whereas phase 2 reactions include methylation, acetylation, glutathione conjugation, glycine conjugation, glucuronide conjugation, sulfation, etc. Thank you. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to share it with your friends. And please do subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on any new videos. And if you have any suggestions, please type it